Thank you so much. I know it's very hard to always start after a break, right? Everybody's having good time and everybody's still asleep. So one thing to start, I was listening to previous presentations, sitting in the back, and a lot of it was about tools and AI and things that we do, and it's great. The truth is, tools don't build teams, people do. And so funny enough, when I did this presentation, and I had to send it in last week, so this was done, the actual slides were done last week. I put the first slide, HR was always AI. Right? Everybody talks about AI today as something new. Not true in case of HR, because we were always adaptive, iterative. We always had to figure things how to do it differently. We couldn't stand still. And I'll talk a little bit about my background and why I'm talking about this and why I'm talking about these lessons learned from managing teams across different continents, different places. But my background is actually a bit not an HR. I'm not an HR person. Believe it or not, I'm not. We started talking about remote as an outsourcing. I was on the engineering side. So my background, I was running engineering teams for about 30 years. Large teams, small teams. I live in the United States. Right now I live in Los Angeles. Before that I lived in Silicon Valley in California, in San Francisco. And I managed teams on every continent, literally every continent. No Antarctica, haven't figured out how to make penguins work yet, but everywhere else I've had teams. And I always ran into the same problem. It didn't work. The outsourcing didn't work. Why? First, outsourcing was sold to us as a cost saving, right? You talk to, and I'm sure you guys heard these stories, right? We can get you great developer or great person for a very cheap amount of money. And then somehow we figured out that didn't work. And then the next thing came in, right? That when that didn't work, the outsourcing company sold us, the idea is you go to remote teams and you get access to skills. And you do, that's very true, but that's not what makes it work. So that actually didn't work either. The problem always been, why didn't it work? The outsourcing companies, the outsourcing teams have always been viewed as outsiders. We've never solved the problem on how to build a team alignment. That was the biggest thing. And so today, when I hear people talk about AI, and I hear about people talk about AI does an interview, I'm sorry to say, but I'm actually laughing at it. In a bad way, not in a good way. We've tried. So I run a company, we're a team augmentation company. We hire engineers, we focus on software development exclusively. We hire people in Latin America and Eastern Europe, and we place them with our clients, mostly in the United States and some in Europe and Middle East, but mostly US. And we try doing AI interviews. We build a bot, right, that does the interview and everything's great. The problem, it misses the human factor. How do you assess somebody's personality? They give you the perfect answers. They tell you exactly what they know, but they don't talk about how they react to things. Remote fails because there's no alignment. The incentives are not aligned. When you have a company, when you hire somebody, you want them to do a good job. You want them to work as part of your team, part of your culture. Somebody here before me spoke about culture and how important it is to have a company culture. And every company has its culture. Good, bad, doesn't matter, but it has its culture. And it's very important that you do that. You bring in people that fit, that they're the right fit, not the right skills. Skills are important, but they're not the driving factor. When I ran outsourcing teams and remote teams and it didn't work, I asked a bunch of my friends who told me also it doesn't work for them. I kept asking, why does it not work? Why does it not work? Nobody ever said because they don't have the skills, or because we pay too much, or because our interview process is broken. Everybody said the same thing. They don't have the same values. They don't see the problem the same way we see the problem. They're outsiders. The local teams don't treat them as internal, they treat them as outsiders. And the external team or external people are viewing the team as, we're outside, we don't care, just tell us what to do and we're going to do the job. And that just doesn't work. It never did, never will. The trust is not there, right? So the important thing is building the trust. Where we got ourselves today, this is talking about AI again, we actually got ourselves in the war of prompts. How many people here in your interview process use AI as a component? Some. How many of you have come across a candidate who uses AI? A lot more hands. So we've actually seen situations where there's a few interesting stories. So the first time this happened was maybe 9 months ago. We got on a video call, and the candidate that was talking, the screening, an interviewer got on a call, and something was odd, something was off. Pretty quickly we figured out we were talking to an avatar. It wasn't a real person. So the person suspected it, and the way they found that they dealt with it, they asked the person, put out your hand and put it in front of the camera. And the person refused to do that. And they, nope, put your camera, and the person does this. Nope, no, in front of the camera. Okay, no, in front of the camera. When he did, that broke. And we've seen this many, many times over and over again. This is where we got ourselves into. This is the reality today. When we did an experiment. We put it, well, it wasn't an experiment, we put up a job, and within 3 days, we got hundreds and hundreds of resumes, and they were all perfect. And I mean perfect. And at first it was like, this is weird, what's going on? And then you quickly realize they're all written by AI. Right? A candidate takes your job description, puts it in ChatGPT and says, here's my resume, modify this for this job description. Boom, you got it. How do you filter that out? I have horror stories of interviews where people show up in your interview in the video, and I guess my favorite one, this was years ago, the guy shows up in a wife-beater shirt, one of those tank top t-shirts, with a cigarette in his hand, and that's how he's doing a video interview with me. AI is not going to catch that. It's great when you have AI to get answers. AI is just not going to catch it unless you're going to program it. Define if there's a cigarette in there. It's not going to do that. In our attempt to automate things, and automation is incredibly important, right? We use AR as part of our HR process. AI analyzes the resume first. AI analyzes the interview as we video record the interview, and AI will analyze it, but it doesn't get in there instead of a human. It's there to help a human and give feedback, and then there's a human being that actually reads it and goes, okay, yeah, that makes sense, or it doesn't make sense, and that's how it works. My whole thing is when you're building a team, and you're building a team across remote, right? So when we're in the same room, and we used to build this, and so I started doing remote teams about 30 years ago, maybe 27 years ago, way before it was popular, way before it was, COVID pushed us all to get into remote, right? So way before that. In fact, my company Mirigos, it started in 2014. And since 2014, it's 100% remote. I'm the only person, it's a US company, I'm the only person who is based in the US. We operate in about 30 countries. So our contractors, right? So we hire people from about 30 countries across Latin America and Europe. And our team that runs the company is between multiple countries, all in Europe, wider area of Europe. It's pretty hard to define, but I'd say it's in Europe. Many of us have never met before. Some of us met here at this conference for the first time. I have one of my employees who came in here, and this is the first time we met in person. It was a great place, right? We're right in the middle. Let's just meet there. But everything's remote, and part of it is building the culture, building this value system that connects everybody. Remote doesn't mean you're an outsider. If you're hiring somebody for a skill set, if you're hiring somebody for, hey, can you do this? Then they'll do this. But when you're hiring somebody because they care and because you care about them, they're gonna do a much better job. We've all heard people don't quit companies, they quit managers, but in reality, they don't quit companies. They quit because they don't feel valued or involved. They get bored. They're not challenged, They're there to push a button, they're there to do a widget. That's not what they want to do. They want to grow. So number one thing that I've learned that has helped me tremendously over the years is when you have a remote team, make them feel as part of your team. Don't differentiate somebody's remote, somebody's local. People get surprised within our company and our clients. We have cases where the company is mostly local, right? Local being in the US, and somebody who is remote is the manager for the team that is in the US. And people often go, wow, how? That doesn't matter, right? It's based on if you fit, right? If you're the right fit, then that's the job that you do. Hire for fit, not knowledge. Knowledge is something that can be learned. I always run across people, hiring managers, especially new hiring managers, that will say, we use this tool, or we use this programming language, or we use this system, and I am looking for somebody who knows the system. My question always is, will you be using the same system in 3 years? Are you 100% sure? And if the answer is no, then you'll probably want the person you're hiring to adapt to whatever new system will be, right? So why are you looking to hire somebody who knows this and not somebody who is able to adapt? So hire somebody who is right fit culturally, hire somebody who is smart, somebody who has the right level of ownership, somebody who cares, somebody who is able to learn. You know, you've probably seen those circus acts, right? A bear is riding on a bicycle. Well, if they can teach a bear to ride on a bicycle, they can teach a smart developer to write in any language there is. Interview process. We have clients that will take a person through 5 cycles of interviews, sometimes more. I find it crazy. It doesn't take that much. I also see people that will do a 30-minute conversation and go, yep, that's the right person, we'll hire them. And I find that crazy as well. That's not enough. You want somebody, you want this process to be sort of enough to be comfortable, but don't overanalyze. I've said this before, hiring somebody is like getting married to them, but firing them is not like getting a divorce. It's much easier, it's a lot less emotional. So if somebody doesn't work out, then you just say goodbye. It happens. Happens to me, happens to everybody. In fact, it should happen more often when you made a bad hiring decision. When you are overanalyzing and you're trying to get the right person in, the right person, quote unquote, for the skills, 5 cycles of interview, you're actually pushing somebody away. This is, by the way, going back to the AI component of interviewing. Interview is a two-way process, right? So we're interviewing a candidate, they're interviewing us. They want to know that this is the right type of a company. They want to know that this is the person they can work with. They want to know that this company solves the problem they care about. When they're talking to an AI agent who is asking them predefined questions, what are they learning? They're learning one thing. The company doesn't care enough about them to invest the time. It's not waste the time, it's invest the time. They don't care enough to invest the time to sell the position to them. If this was me, I would drop off. In fact, we ran an experiment. We built, this was an experiment. We weren't planning on using this for real life, but we were just curious what would happen. We built an AI agent that did the interview. And even though when we told people, hey, could you do us a favor and do this? We want to see how it works. So they knew that this wasn't a real interview. They knew this wasn't, their job doesn't depend on it. 100% of them dropped out within first minute of the interview. They all said, it feels odd. It just doesn't feel right. I don't want to do this. I don't want to continue. I'm talking to a robot. Back to robots talking to robots. Culture doesn't happen. You need to build the culture in, right? You need to work on it. When you are dealing with people from different countries, they all have different traditions. They all have different values. I learned something today. So Sevda, who is sitting there, who is working for us, she's from Azerbaijan. And when I write messages, I put, sort of the smiley face. And she told me today that in Azerbaijan, that's actually a negative smile, right? That's being sarcastic. So when I was writing this to her, she thought that I was being sarcastic and making fun of her. Where in my mind, would never cross my mind. Right? I'm just writing a message and I go, smiley, yeah, I'm joking. Okay, I'm not going to go and pick the actual emoji. I'm just going to put one of those smiley faces and that's it. So you got to know, and I learned this today. An hour ago, we were sitting and chatting and she told me this. We run into interesting cultural differences. Somebody who is in the US happens to be a culture of small talk. Everybody comes in, hi, how are you? How was your weekend? How was this and this and this? We hire people from Eastern Europe. It's all business. All business. I remember first time I built my team, this was before I had my company, and I think it was like maybe 1 or 2 weeks into it, and the guys from, this was in Ukraine, the team was in Ukraine, they all go like, oh my God, this was the worst meeting of my life. This was a complete waste of time. First 10 minutes, they were talking about their weekend. And I'm looking at them going, what did you want them to do? Was there something else you wanted to discuss? No, I came into the meeting, I want to talk about the business. Okay. So you gotta understand this. You can't change that. You can explain it, but you can't change it. And you have to know this, right? You have to play with it. Another example, like in the US, we tend to run very informally. Like people don't come and say, hey, can I please go home early today? They just go home early today. In Europe, at least my experience, a lot of it is, in Latin America, we do a lot of Latin America. A lot of Latin America is very much, I'm going to send an email and I'm going to leave 15 minutes early today. And I'm getting this email, like, okay, what am I supposed to do with this information? I don't know what time you came in. How am I supposed to know what time you're leaving? I just don't care. So you can't change that. You can't come in tomorrow and say, this is how the company runs. You have to understand that everybody is different. But then you got to have this culture that you're building and you're bringing them together and you're saying, this is how we work. Now, one of my things is, actually, I'll jump to that one in a second. Hire adults. That's my thing. Just hire adults. Don't hire people that you need to micromanage. Micromanagement is a control, right? It's a way of control. And we feel if I don't see you, then you're not working. When I see you, we're in the same office, I see you, you're in your desk, that means you're working. Doesn't matter that you might be on Facebook or Instagram or TikTok doing something else, but you're at your desk, right? Your butt is in the chair. But if I don't see you, and if I send you a message and you didn't reply to me within a quarter of a second, that means you're not working. Well, I hire adults, and I always tell others, hire adults, where you don't need to micromanage them. You need to tell them, this is the objective, this is the time frame, can you do it? Can I get your commitment? And now I don't care what time you work, what time you don't work. I honestly don't care. And then when you hire adults, you gotta remember to treat them as adults. Because that's a big problem. You hire adults, you tell them that they have to go figure this out, and then you continue micromanaging them and managing them step by step. I'll come back to the retention. We always measure retention. We always manage leaders and companies by retention, right? In HR, what's your retention rate? How many people quit year over year? And that's great. That's amazing. But in a remote work, it's even more important because we are trying to attract talent, but every time we lose them, it's not just you're losing the person, you're losing the knowledge. They can easily take away the entire team with them because you have less control. Right? Let's say you have a team of 5 people in the same country. They all know each other. They became friends. They go out for drinks, on Thursday, Friday night. They go out for lunch. Well, one leaves, they're going to start telling everybody else why they're leaving, where they're going, and invite them to come with them. So retention becomes even more important, and the only way to solve that is, it's not about money, it's not about paying them more, even though that always helps. You sort of have to establish the fair pay, right? You got to pay fair. But it's not about cost savings, it's about building the team that is aligned in their goals with you and that's aligned and you're aligned in their goals, right? So you got to understand sort of where that connection is. And I'm going to end with just basically, the outsourcing is broken. The AI, it's noise. It will get there, right? It's a great tool. It will get there at some point. In LA, we have self-driving cars. I love it. I get in that car, you push a button, there's no driver. It takes me where I want to go. But we're still years away before any one of us can have that car and drive around. So AI is still a bit of a noise. If you want to win as a remote team, as a distributed team, it's the alignment, right? It's getting people aligned, having the same culture, and having the right fit is what is going to make you succeed or not. That's what we do. That's what our company specializes in. We figured that out. Our line is, we fixed what's broken in outsourcing. And that's how we move forward.
Zhenya, thank you very much. Everything that you have told, feel it on my skin. When some clients, it's like, my basic story, the time I will ask the question first, how you make clients to treat the people the same, partners, not that just, usually we work with outsourcing the IT department and the business stakeholders say, hey, I just about business, those IT guys do something for me. And really, really rare the story is when the business stakeholders sitting together with our people treating the same. So what's the recipe for you?
The recipe is education. So we interview our clients, right? So when we bring them on, we interview them. Interview them in a way of, we explain what we do and how we work, and we make sure they understand it. Mm-hmm. We do what we can to educate them and to show the value of it. Most of our companies are small to medium-sized businesses, but I'll be honest with you, about 6 months ago, we fired the client. We told the client, we're not going to work with you anymore, because the value wasn't there. They didn't treat the employees or the contractors the way we thought they were.
People,
yeah, and we told them, all the powers to you. You're in a different business. We can't help you. We can't help you succeed in our model, and we don't want to put our name out there as mistreating people. So we said goodbye.
Zhenya, thank you very much.
Thank you. Thank you.
So I think partially what Zhenya was saying with these perfect CVs and perfect resumes, anyone sees that as an applicant? Yeah, it reminds me a little bit the Instagram. A couple of years back, the Instagram was all bright and shiny, pixel perfect, and now what is trendy? More real life. I think the same we are kind of surviving within applicants, like AI tries to beat AI.